Hello! Welcome to a game review for Warlock, Master of the Arcane. So you only have the option to choose a new game. So let's go right there. Then we can choose the difficulty: casual, relaxed, normal, challenging, impossible, and then a few other options to the other side. Then you basically choose the world type, which is not much options. You can choose between flat world or cylindrical world, and you can choose your amount of opponents and your amount of worlds. So then there's a lot of characters you can choose from. They are bound to a race and a color, which are obviously customizable. So they have a basic set of perks and spells, which is interesting. The red seems to be a trader. Some orc somehow belongs to a bestiary race. I see an elven race. So you can customize that. Since there's only one elven race, I choose that one. But then I can reassign them to another race. So that's interesting. That's basically what your cities will be. So you can give them some basic spells and perks. So that's interesting. And then you go into the game. You're instantly greeted with a kind of annoying narrator. It sounds a bit like Sean Connery meets wannabe Sean Connery, I guess. And those tutorials are gonna be all over you for the first bit. So you start with two units and a little city, basically Civ. You want to press right click, but no, you have to walk with left click. We'll get back to that later. And you can just move your units around the map, trying to explore the map. So far it's a bit more like Age of Wonders. I see a little less things happening and a little less roads actually. And then you can also move with your archer, or you can choose to defend them in the city. So in the city you get a tutorial again, but that's really interesting view. This is more Age of Wonders again. You can choose to build something, a farm. You see there's already built 3 things into the city: a farm, a market, and a place to train bows. And you can actually build a new thing. So harbor gives me 20% food production, so that's interesting. It's percent, so. And you train some bows. And then you can choose to research a spell. So there's not really a research tree, it's only spells. Most are bound to combat or defensive, so like healing, or enchanting, or reconstruction, which is actually healing for machines. Okay, after that, you can see your other panels. You can go to another world if you explore them. So at first you can't do anything with it, of course. And you have your diplomatic screen. Since I haven't met anyone, I can't see anything there. And something, what seems to be natives or neutral monsters, because I don't see it being other players. And then you have your Hall of Lords and your list of units, which just lists your units. The Hall of Lords is actually empty because I don't have any lords yet. And there's a list of cities, which is just one for me, of course. Very well. So in the options, I was instantly looking to see resources on my hexes, which I could not find. So the options are really limited. You can't really see which node, which hex gives what resources. Okay, if you choose defend, you can still walk. It still gives a pop-up to walk with the player. And then actually something annoying happens, because I try to double click on the city, but no, since I move with left click, it also left click the units again. So if they move on point, you just walk back with them. So exploring is kind of interesting. You see a lot of nodes, some with monsters. This one just had gold in it. And it has a lot of stuff like mana and resources. So let's move a bit around. Now, as you can see, my Chamber of Arrows actually give food. And of course, my farm gives food. The farms give flat food. And everything produces food as long as it's on a plain tile. And if it's on a forest tile, it will deforest that and give wood as well. So every worked tile gives plus 20%. So then you can, the last option is to select spells, which I don't have any yet because I still have to research them, which is fine. So it's all pretty straightforward. And you have a lot of types. Well, a lot of types. It's basically the same: elemental, healing, and standard attack, offensive, defensive. So you have reconstruction, which is for the ships, etc. Healing ships, it's kind of weird. Frost weapon enchant, I don't really care for enchants. I'd rather throw a fireball or something. So let's go to the next turn, and then suddenly I can train settlers. Is because my city expanded. So the borders expanded. When you get the first border expand, you can train new settlers. And a lot of improvements on buildings, etc. are also bound to those same expansions. So that's really interesting. Now you see there's a lot of new options to build from. And just spam to the next turn. And then we actually go to attacking. Because there are some imps in that castle which I really like to attack. It gives another tutorial, of course, which are kind of obnoxious. With melee you have to move first to a tile next to it and then you can attack. So you can't instantly attack, which is, well, maybe it's a bit safer in the end. So it's not even that bad. So, and then something really funny happened. I didn't kill them, but they flee anyway. So that's really interesting. And they give me the reconstruction spell, so I don't have to research them, and a lot of mana, 60 mana. So that's interesting. So that brings me up to 96 mana and +2 per turn. So my harbor is ready, and you can see I can build a carvel, and I can also build a new building. So farm gives flat food, so that's really important because a lot of things give percential food. So you want your flat food first, and I actually go for the there's a lot of options. I think it's good to go for food because it's really lacking early. So yeah, you would build a granary or something. And also see you have research points up there. So it's all really interesting. There is a good base. There's a good base for this game, but we'll get into more detail a little bit later. What is lacking? What is doing extremely well, even better compared to other games like Age of Wonders and Civ and soon Planetfall. So I'm really curious about that one. So let's see. We have this new unit available, so it gives some pop-ups every turn. What happened, just like Civ actually. And I can also build ships now. So attacking with bows is interesting. They just shoot from range and you can put your spears in front of them and then you can smack them silly. So that's pretty safe. I don't see any represalias for the terrain. So walking through hills, through forest, etc. it doesn't seem to give any form of penalty. So that's really interesting. And then level up. Level up is actually something you do a lot. So they easily level up. And you want to give them that experience. So you want to go hunting a little bit. You want to keep them safe because it's a really investment, especially when they have 4 or 5 upgrades. So as you can see, I already built a settler. I'm actually moving towards a tile I want to build a new city in. And things can go wrong fast because I was just standing there and every neutral monster in a certain range just randomly attacked me. They did not wait. So as you can see, the ogre is not taking his time smashing my archers out. The good thing is my archers fall back automatically and they take the tile you were in because you flee. But this gives me great opportunity to keep my archers step 1 back, shoot, and etc, etc. So if you hover over anything you can hit, you can see a little pop-up which gives the pre-damage results. And as you can see, I use my spell that I learned, healing, to heal my units. Really easy, so they can't die as long as I have mana, but mana is rather rare early game. So you can burn them on your first few units and then you're like, oh my, I don't have mana for 20 turns to cast anything. So then there's quests. You randomly get quests. It seems to occur more often when you explore a new city or find a new wizard, etc, etc. So I need to build a farm now. So by now I have 2 archers. I'm moving forward and I see more monsters, so I'm just exploring, basic exploring. So that's all you do first game. You just construct baseline for food, you construct a baseline for money, and go for the cities. The cities are very rewarding. There's no penalty in happiness or anything for building cities. So that's really important. So it's all rather straightforward. There's not much happening, not much special yet. I can build my city with my settler, and I instantly complete the quest because you get a free farm every time you build a city. So that's very rewarding, actually. So not only we have no penalty for creating a new city, we also have no penalty. We also have a free farm. So I still have happiness. I have not seen anything in the sense of happiness. So there is happiness in the game, but it isn't something like a penalty. You need just a surplus. So here I get a new lord. So I randomly get a pop-up in a turn that I get a lord which I can hire. You can see the details when you right click on it. So it's an ogre, so it's basically what we just killed. It costs 10 upkeep, so you have to keep that in mind, and it costs 150 gold to recruit. But you have to buy the lords. The lords are incredibly overpowered. So I can walk, it's absolutely ugly, and it doesn't fit anything with the elven race, so I really didn't like it on that base. It's simply just a random lord. It has no connection to whatsoever. So when you come closer, you explore your new rivals. Actually, three tile range or something, 2 tiles, and then you can start your diplomacy with it if you want to. I kind of don't like them building so close to me because that's always going to end up in war, always. So as I saw that archers are more overpowered than base units because they are actually quite tanky. So here I get a magic weapon, which I will explain later. And I also got a quest, capture Deepwood. So I'm actually going on for that. Combat is really basic. You just smack it, they hit you back. And if you have a lord, you just smack it really hard and you probably take it instantly or almost instantly. As you can see, there's a massive chunk out of that city. And then there's also ship, seafaring, of course. You can easily reconstruct your ships as well with a spell, which I actually got for free. And then you have some nice boardside cannons who can just smack everything on the sea. As you see, I just demolish those archers, which should be, so that's really realistic. The ships do decent amount of damage, not like, hey, I shoot on a land unit with 20 cannons and I just do a little bit of health. That doesn't make sense. So as you can see, when something is in the vicinity of your city, you can shoot twice. Once with the city and once with whoever is stationed there, provided they are archers, of course. So once you just take a city, you complete the quest if you have one. You probably level up again because you level up everything you do. And you can probably get more pop-ups. So you get a few lords pretty early in the game already. And at one point, it starts happening. He starts making demands because I'm close to him. So you have no option but to trigger a war. If they're close to you, they're gonna hate you and you're gonna start a war. So you go in there, brave as you are, you have your lord, you think you're invincible, and it actually is a lot tougher than you think. But really interesting as well. So you just, you see he has a lot more cities than you. He has, well, you have the same amount, but you don't have any established cities. So I have one new city I made myself, and I have 2 small captured cities who actually have no production yet. They have nothing. So this city gives me some base mana, because there is a little mana node in there. And then the shit starts, because they're gonna smack you. And if the city doesn't have health, but you have a full health guy in there, you actually can defend with that full guy. So that guy is going to keep defending that city until he dies himself or flees. And if your opponent has a lot of mana, then you see those little monsters. In this case, they are rats. And you see that symbol. That means they're summoned creatures. So he just summons a shitload of rats in this case. And if there was anything else but this lord, he would have been so dead. So as you can see, he brings in a lot of archers as well. And that is one big archer, which is his lord. And basically when you see some guy, it's just one single guy in a tile and does a shitload of damage, it's going to be a lord. So as you can see there, Capital City actually can hit me from 3 tiles, which is crazy. And you see the lord is almost dead. Luckily he flees when he's almost dead, so he actually starts surviving. And he has a little bit of regeneration, one of the many skills you can give him when he levels. Well, then they start begging for peace. Basically, when you kill their army, they'll keep begging for peace. But since he made his first demand, I can't do it. So since the other lord I got was a healer, I can just keep my ogre up pretty easily. And also can use my own heals. My own heals costing mana. The heals cast by the healer does not cost any mana. So you can also construct towers, as you can see the enemy does, around the baseline, which are attackable. So you can destroy that building, which is interesting, because often there's not much interaction except plunder, etc. They have a decent chunk of health. I attacked it with a lord, that's why I did almost half damage, but normal units would do a lot less. So all in all, lords are crazily OP. And you basically just can forget about soldiers at one point. You want some archers, you want maybe a front line, even though that's not really necessary when you have a decent lord. And you can do everything with the few lords. And a few turns later you get another lord. Now you see you have items as well. You can equip them. I can't equip the Staff of Healing, but I gave her a Staff of Bone, so she has more base attack. Kinda find it useless to give a charter that already has the spell heal another heal. That doesn't make sense to me. And then you just defeat them. It's really basic, straightforward. There is not much to do. There's no campaign, which I really didn't like. There's no form of story, which I also don't like. So let's go to rating the game. What would we rate the game? So the art style was actually very good. I really enjoyed it. Everything was perfectly the thing, so I'm gonna give it 4 stars. And if we go to difficulty, it wasn't hard. It was, you want to do something with it, so I give it, I think, 3 stars. Because you want to do something with difficulty, and difficulty doesn't have to be a bad thing. It can be a good thing. So overall, the gameplay, it was smooth. It was very smooth. I did enjoy it. I did enjoy it. But would I play it again? I think for replayability, I'll give it only 2 stars. Because I don't think I started again. Because I've seen everything already. The game is that straightforward. Nothing else is going to change. Story, non-existing. Non-existing. There was no story. There was nothing. Nothing I could relate to. So I'm going to give that 1 star. So overall, you come at 2.8 stars or something. So let's be generous. Let's give him 8. Or let's give him 3 stars. 3 stars overall. That's all I can make of it. It's the bags of potential, but I think it missed out a little bit.